what we're going to look at is simplifying radicals. So we need to understand basically what the radicals are. So if we have our power of 3, that means what number do we multiply to give us 64? It's 4 times 4 times 4. Well, that's also what's called, that number is called a cube root of 64. So the root is the number that you get when you have a square or a radical sign. We could have a fourth, so x to the fourth power, what number is 5? That number is called the root, and it happens to be the fourth root of 625. So when you press this into your calculator, you get 5. We can keep going. What's number that's the fifth root of 32? Well, it's 2. So the 2 is the fifth root, because when you press it in your calculator, you get 2. So we also could have something we don't know, and that's called the nth root. So this n is outside the radical sign, tells what's the nth root of that. So what we can do is now find roots of our problem. So let's go and find some roots. So the first thing we need to do is anything outside of the radical stays with our answer. So plus minus stays with our answer. The next thing we need to do is do the square root of 16. Well, the square root of 16, you can press in your calculator and you'll get 4. Now to find the root of a letter, you just look at the exponent and divide it by whatever the root is. So in this case, it's a square root. So if I divide 4 by 2, I get 2. So y would become squared. So this is the root of our problem. Now, if we look at an expression, we're not going to do anything different. So the first thing is anything outside the radical is part of our answer, so the minus sign stays. So I want to look at this whole thing to the 8th power. Well, it's a square root, so I'm going to take the 2 and divide it into the 8, which gives me 4. So this whole part, x squared minus 6, is to the 4th root. So this is our answer if we want to find the square root of that particular expression. Now let's do where we have another number besides 2, and it's written, there's a 5. So if it's not written, it's a 2, but if it's written, that's the root. So we want to find the 5th root of 243, which you press in your calculator, and I believe it is a 3. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 gives us 243. Then all you do with the exponents of the letters is divide them. So 20 divided by 5 would be 4, and 25 divided by 5 would be 5. And so this would be our real root to this problem. So there's our real root. Our problem with this next one. So what we're going to look at now is this next problem, letter D. And the problem with this one is we have a negative inside, but we also have an even root, and it's 2. Because when you have an even root and you have a negative, you have no real roots because it ends up being an imaginary number. So this one with the negative exponent inside but an even root can't really be done. All right, now what we're going to do is approximate numbers. We're going to approximate the values by just using our calculator. And when we do use our calculator, we need to understand a couple things unlike the previous one. If we have a negative, it can be done in your calculator as long as this root is odd, and it is odd. So if you press that in your calculator, you will get a negative 2 point, and we want it to 3 decimal places. So it'll be 1, 2, and I'm going to go ahead and round because it's a 7. So this is a 7, so I'm going to round. So I'm going to get a negative 2.1, 2. And so there's our approximation, and that's a little squiggly equal sign. Now let's do the next problem. It's an even exponent, but it's not negative, so we should be able to approximate that. So I'm going to go in your calculator, second function with that, and we can press our root, and when we hit that, we're going to get 2.9027. So I always go 4 decimal places when we want 3, so I can look at this, which is bigger than 5, so I'm going to round it to 2.903. So that's our approximate answer by just pressing into a calculator.